to other people, yes, that means he's not independent. Seriously, is that what you're trying to say?
That what I am saying, and I'll be very clear,
Go on.
is that according to you, what you said, and it's on camera, is that the definition of self-sufficiency is not to be dependent on others. And you said, not me, your words, Hashim, is that mercy is always transactional between at least two parties, the mercy giver and the one receiving. So, if Allah is the all-merciful one, yeah, I know you're going to help Hashim, but if Allah is the all-merciful one, and Allah is self-sufficient, you have an internal contradiction between these two attributes.
No, I'll tell you why not. Shall I tell you why not? Because when you say self-sufficient, in what is Allah self-sufficient? Not in expressing his characteristics, i.e. his love, his justice, his mercy. Not that. When you say self-sufficient, it means, does Allah need to eat food like Jesus ate food? Does Allah need to be circumcised by other people? Does Allah, in order to save other people, need to be killed? Because without these people, Jesus cannot be killed. And if Jesus cannot be killed, then you cannot be saved. Are you saying Jesus, God, the Godhead, the second person of the Trinity, is dependent on the Romans to kill him for you to be saved?
Okay, so I will answer this question directly, and then I will make a point. We believe that when the second person of the Trinity enters into the fullness of humanity, yes, he becomes contingent in his humanity on the humans around him, on his mother, on his adopted father Joseph, on the people that educated him in the synagogue and the temple, on his brothers and his sisters, on the people that he spoke to. This is consistent to our belief because, as you well know, we believe that the Logos took on the fullness of humanity. Now allow me to make a further point. I am not using my definition of self-sufficiency. This is the Islamic definition of self-sufficiency.
I didn't give you a definition.
One second. And it is also that you are now changing your definition of self-sufficiency.
No, but did I say that was an Islamic definition?
Can I finish my point?
It is an English.
Did I interrupt you, Hashim? Hashim, did I interrupt you, Hashim?
No, but you're making an accusation.
I'm talking. You interrupt Hashim, not me.
Carry on.
Interrupt Hashim, not me. Can I speak without being interrupted, please? Can I speak without being interrupted, please?
Okay, go on, carry on. I'll correct you after you finish.
Thank you. Okay. So, Hashim, you are the one that said self-sufficiency is not being dependent on others. I did say that. Thank you.
But I never said that was Islamic definition.
And now you are trying to qualify your understanding. You're giving a qualified definition of self-sufficiency. So, I will accept your qualified definition of self-sufficiency if you can show it to me in the Quran or in a hadith.
Okay, first and foremost, did I say it was an Islamic definition of self-sufficiency? I did not say that. You made that point, you put words in my mouth saying that Hashim gave an Islamic definition of self-sufficiency. These were your terms, not mine. So when I gave you the definition, I gave from a generic definition. What does self-sufficient mean? It means to be not dependent on anyone else.
Thank you.
That was a generic definition. I do not deny that. So for you to make this common argument that I gave Islamic definition, that is inaccurate. Now going back to the response you gave about, guys, can we all calm down? Alright, when you said that yes, Jesus was dependent on his father, on his cousins, on his mother, X, Y, and Z, do you realize this Jesus in his humanity was also fully God? And remember, wait, I know you made this mistake many times before and I've corrected you, but you somehow seem to forget it. This human nature and the divine nature of Jesus is linked to one person.
Agreed.
Do you agree?
Yes.
So was this second person of the Trinity dependent while he was on earth, i.e. on saving you and the other Christian? He was dependent on being killed by the Romans. Because if the Romans or if humans did not kill him, then you wouldn't be saved. Hence he was dependent, the second person of the Trinity, who is fully God and fully man according to you. This one person was dependent. Do you agree?
Right, so
good.
I will answer the question and then I will make a point.
Go on.
I am going to. I am going to.
I just wanted to add, you know.
So, no, interrupt Hashim, not me. Interrupt Hashim, not me.
I was interrupting you. Can I interrupt you now?
You waited until he finished, and I was going to speak.
I just wanted to say,
me and Hashim.
You know earlier when
don't. Why can I never speak without being interrupted?
You know earlier when we said the whole thing about mercy.
But he's got
when we said earlier.
Prayer bead around his
When we
neck.
said
earlier. Why can I never speak without the Dawah team interrupting me? Notice, he was not speaking when Hashim was speaking. Notice, he was not speaking when Hashim was speaking. But the moment I begin to speak, suddenly all of them find their voice. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny?
He's not a Muslim.
Isn't it funny? So now, in answer to your question,
The second person of the Trinity.
I haven't forgot your
dependent?
question.
Good.
I haven't forgot your question.
Was he dependent?
I will simply repeat the answer that I gave to you before, which is that when the divine Logos took on the fullness of humanity, in his humanity, he then becomes dependent on other human beings. This is what we believe. I believe I've answered your question very directly and very straightforwardly.
Can you confirm it was the second person of the Trinity which was dependent? Can you use those words?
Hashim,
Are you reluctant to use them?
I have answered your question.
No, you haven't. Unless you use the second
let
person
the people
of the Trinity.
decide whether I answered your question.
If anybody here
I will
say the
answer your
second
question.
person of the Trinity
So,
is dependent,
Hashim,
yes, you have
notice
answered.
Hashim is now interrupting.
Thank you.
Notice that I was quiet when Hashim was speaking, but the morality of Islam, demonstrated by this brother,
stop complaining?
demonstrated by this brother,
complaining, Bob.
has no manners.
Bob, stop complaining.
No manners at all. Interrupting,
Complaining.
Can I speak? Can I speak?
Bob is a white Christian.
Can
He gets
I
to go first.
speak? Your passive racism is your own, brother. So, now, the point that I would say to you
What?
is that
The second person of the Trinity is dependent. You're right.
No, don't interrupt.
Oh, you don't want to
Hashim.
use that?
Hashim, don't interrupt Hashim.
Stop complaining.
Don't interrupt Hashim.
Stop complaining, Bob.
Don't interrupt Hashim.
You know, just because you're named after a cartoon doesn't mean you're bad. Doesn't mean you have to behave like one.
Guys, do you want to hear me speak or Hashim have a monologue? Right, please, let me speak. So,
You're going already.
I've been here all day, bro.
I've been here all day.
I've been here already.
I've been here too.
I'm sure. So,
Go on.
no, right. So, the fact of the matter is, fair enough, you're saying that your earlier general definition of self-sufficiency is not Islamic.
It's not the Islamic definition.
Okay, fine. Hashim, stop interrupting.
I'm just confirming.
Hashim!
What's wrong with you?
Stop
Are you okay?
interrupting, bro.
You're like a woman, man.
Oh my gosh.
Stop it.
Tell me when you're finished.
Okay.
He's answering, bro.
The second person of the Trinity was dependent. Carry on.
That's the
Okay.
That's a bit he didn't want to respond to. Carry on.
Are you sure you're finished?
I have, Bob.
Thank you. Okay. So, Hashim,
Go on.
let us accept that your earlier definition of self-sufficiency as not being dependent on others is not the Islamic definition. What I would like to see, therefore, is the Islamic definition using Islamic sources, please.
If I can bring them next time. I don't have them on my
Next
now.
time. Okay.
Why not?
Right.
Like the way you said many times. I can look it up.
I really haven't, but okay.
Really? You mean like Melchizedek?
So, yeah. So,
Remember that?
So, my point to you
Yeah,
is,
go on.
given that we don't have another definition to use,
We can use this, no problem.
right?
No
So
issues.
let us use
Carry
the
on.
general
Yeah, that's
definition
fine. Go on.
of not being.
Oh yeah, the poor guy's been sidelined.
Can I?
Sorry.
Can I? This is unfortunately what happened
Yeah,
when you
I know.
let Hashim in.
Bob is complaining again. He doesn't like me.
Can I? Yeah. So I'll finish.
Go on.
So Hashim, the fact is, using your first definition, since you're not able to produce another. The self-sufficiency means not dependent on others. So I will ask you again to give me an example of mercy that is not transactional.
We've been through this. Bob, stop it.
Is it
You know,
transactional?
honestly, you know what are you doing? You're just going in circles about the same thing. I've answered that many times. And I've told you, when you talk about self-sufficiency, yes, it doesn't mean that Allah is dependent on anyone. For example, before human beings were created, Was Allah self-sufficient? Yes, he was. After the humans were created, was he self-sufficient? Of course he was. It doesn't mean, like, for example, if you show mercy to someone, yes, it doesn't mean you are not self-sufficient. Yes, this is your characteristic that you're showing mercy to someone who deserves mercy. But does that mean you stop being self-sufficient? Does it mean now you become dependent on that guy to whom you showed mercy to? Absolutely not. I think your understanding of mercy and the character or the attribute of God are somehow flawed. You said mercy is not an attribute of your God. Is that right?
You could use this.
I don't want to misquote you. You said mercy is not an attribute of your God.
No, it's an action.
Okay, which means not an attribute of his God.
Yeah, it's an
God.
action.
So it's an action which he expresses. You see, when somebody expresses an action, for example, an action of love,